Hey there, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Yorba, California for the Andy Falco Show. And the nonsense just doesn't stop. It's been a while since I've been able to come on, been, doing our other shows. And it just was necessary to come on a little bit earlier than I had planned. I planned on a show next week, but um, this Yorba Moms group and PYO Buzz is just a group of people that really just have a disdain for parents and for children. And I wanted to make sure and come on and let you know about some of the things that are being said in these groups. I got some shots to share you to kind of remind people of what was happening about 2 or 3 years ago. I think that's really important that you know the context of which some of these things were being done, and that everything that Bonnie Conte and quite possibly Esther Kim and some other people are saying in these groups is a fabrication and a lie about a substitute teacher that is also a mom in the community, a well-respected mom in the community. And this is just so mean-spirited and just hate-filled that they will take something completely out of context that occurred 3 years ago and create a whole new narrative in order to try to fire a mom in the community who, again, is just one of the greatest people you will ever want to meet, that loves the kids that she teaches and loves what she's doing. But this is who Bonnie Conte is, and her group of people that support her, and then of course teachers within the school district that all jump on board and just simply attack her. And so I just want to kind of go back 2 to 3 years ago when I did a video on some of the things that were happening, and this is in the height of the LGBTQ, CRT, DEI issues, where parents were able to regain power of the school board, and a lot of things were coming out. And at that time, there was a large group of people that were very much, and still are, for things like men dressed as women, transgender men reading stories, school time story hour for preschool and elementary schools. They were really applauding, including Bonnie Conte and the other group of people that she surrounds herself with, dancing and wearing dresses and dancing for the children, twerking with G-strings on. All this stuff was happening. Again, it was rampant in social media and the cheering on of these things at the time. And then we had pornography in the schools, in these children's books that were in the library and that were, being shared, and had parents take out some of these books and show me and take photographs of some of the pages and what was written on there. And one of the parents during that period of time had read one of the books, some of the, narratives that were found in some of the chapters. And it was very graphic about sexual acts, oral sex, anal sex. And she was reading this book at a school board meeting. And the superintendent at the time, which I think was Matthews, if I'm not mistaken, told her that she couldn't do that she had to stop because it was too graphic. And again, this was a book straight out of our schools here at Placentia Yorba Unified School District. We saw other parents in other school districts doing the same thing, and the very same thing would happen where these woke liberal school board members and superintendents would stop them and say, hey, you can't read that stuff here in front of a bunch of adults. And yet these were books that were being taken out of the schools and the libraries that were elementary schools and junior high schools and high schools, and very graphic. And I, as I was researching and trying to look back in those days, some of the posts and trying to get some of the, screenshots that I was using at the time to kind of share, I found that video. I wanted to keep this video short, so I'm not going to play the video of the mother that was reading it. But in a future one, maybe in my next show, I'll share that video of the parent reading the chapters and the superintendent saying, "Stop! You can't read that because it's too graphic." And so all that was going on. So another thing that was happening at the time, and again, I'm talking about 2 to 3 years ago, somewhere in that time span, there was men in I guess boys, if you want to use that, but they were, it was in the high school, El Dorado High School in particular, where there was these boys going into school bathrooms, and of course, people like Bonnie and Esther and teachers like Jenny Bremer and others were saying that's not happening. Those things are not happening, and that's always the answer, right? That whatever it is that our kids are reporting that happening in schools, they're calling our children liars and they're calling us liars. So there have been a number of reports of boys in the bathroom, and then a young girl, I think she was a junior at the time, if I'm not mistaken, sophomore or junior, she goes to go into the bathroom, and there is a boy in the bathroom. She pulls open the door. There's a boy in the bathroom, fully clothed, standing next to a girl who's fully clothed. Nobody, as far as what I was told, was in any of the stalls. They were just standing there in the doorway. And she snapped a picture of this fully clothed boy in the bathroom standing next to a fully clothed girl. Now, a parent sent me that picture, and she was appalled and said that her daughter is traumatized to an extent that she will no longer go to the bathroom at school. And I was beginning to hear this. I had two daughters in cheerleading at the time. I believe maybe one of them was still in cheerleading, the other one had graduated. But they told me the same story, that whenever they had to go to the bathroom at school, they would hold it until after school because they didn't want to go into the bathrooms because they were dealing with these boys, and some of them dressed as girls, in the girls' bathroom. And the principal and the vice principal and other leadership wouldn't do anything about it. And so they were not going to the bathroom, holding their urine and their bowel movement for hours at a time, holding it because they simply did not want to go to the bathroom in the bathroom. My daughter still does that to this day. And said, she asked me to get out of school the other day, and this was not too long ago, because she didn't want to use the bathroom at the school. This still happens today. So that's what's important to understand about the context of what my show was on that day, 2 to 3 years ago, was that I had received a photograph that showed the proof that boys were in the bathroom at El Dorado High School for girls, in the girls' bathroom. And I also said I was not going to share that picture in the show because I quite often, as I'm going to do today, share screenshots and pictures. And I said to the audience at the time, those that were going to view it on the recording, that I would not share it because it was underage children. And instead, I sent it previous to doing the show to the superintendents, both of them at the, well, not both of them, there was like three of them at the school district that were responsible for the oversight of these particular schools. And to every board member, the principal of El Dorado High School and the vice principal of El Dorado High School, I sent that picture to them, and the Placentia Police Department. And so I did exactly what it is you're supposed to do with these kinds of pictures. And it wasn't a picture of anybody naked or sex acts or anything like that. They were two fully clothed children of high school students in the bathroom, fully clothed, at the opening of the door. Now, I never shared that picture even on social media. That was never done. However, I don't know who that student shared the picture with. I don't know if the parent may have shared the picture with other people, but it did show up on Instagram for a short period of time, and I think some other locations. And so a lot of other people saw this picture. So don't go believing what I'm about to read to you in social media, that this mother, who is a substitute teacher at El Dorado, in Placentia Yorba Unified High School, is out of the ordinary of the different adults who saw this picture in their social medias, because it was circulating out throughout social media at the time. Not from me. As a matter of fact, like I said, I just want to repeat this. I did not even share it on my show because I know how crazy people are and how stupid people are, that they would claim that this was inappropriate, that it was child porn or whatever, which is actually what's happening right now, 3 years later. And so this is really, I'm really struggling not to say something really mean, but this is crazy. This is crazy time, because what it is that they want to do now, 2 to 3 years later, is create this narrative that Karen Farley, who's the mother, who's a substitute teacher with Placentia Yorba Linda High School, must be fired because she mentioned that she had seen the picture, like maybe hundreds, if not more, people saw on their social media of this clothed boy dressed as a girl in the girls' bathroom, standing next to a clothed girl standing in the bathroom, just at the entryway, not even in a stall, not in a gym, a locker room, in the shower. None of that was happening. There's two students standing in the threshold of the girls' bathroom. Nothing more than that. And again, I chose not to share it because I know how crazy people like what I'm talking about today are, that they will create a whole entirely new narrative. My purpose for sharing it with the police department was that not that it was pornographic or child porn in any way, just so that the police chief would be aware of boys going into the boys' bathroom, so the SROs would know who to keep an eye out for, of what boys were going into the girls' locker room. That was the purpose of sharing with the police department, but not because it was child pornography in any kind. So it's really important to understand, again, the context and what was happening at the time, and who else has those pictures. Because apparently, just having that sent to you, you should be fired. So if they're going to get Karen Farley fired for having seen it in social media, then obviously Marilyn Anderson, Carrie Buck, and who else was there at that time? It wasn't obviously Quintero. It was who else was there? I forget who it was. Oh, Karen, whatever her name is, another trustee. She can't be fired, but the other two need to be recalled or fired. And the current superintendent, must take action against these people, because they received the picture that they claim that Karen should be fired for. They also received it, and many other, whoever the other superintendents were that I sent it to at that time. So let's take a look at what's on this post that Bonnie Conte put up, who, again, she has a history of lying, and I'm going to repeat what she did in just a second. But here's the post that I'm talking about, so you can kind of be on track with what I'm doing. This is in PYL Buzz. Bonnie Conte, all-star contributor, writes, anyone else find this as troubling as I do? An adult parent stating on a community forum that she has viewed, and then it says see more, and it's the picture of the boy in the girls' bathroom. And of course, lovely celery. Now, we used to have to deal with bears, panda bears, and koala bears. Now everybody's calling themselves a vegetable. So this is really very strange. But lovely celery says that is a state mandate, not a PYL thing. So I'm not sure what she was responding to. Maybe that they need to be fired because that's what Bonnie Conte wants. Kimberly Catherine says that is not happening until surgery is involved, which hasn't been done in PYLC. Oh, I got what's happening here. PYLSD for any of the students under 18. District policy is that you are still required to stay in the gender group you were born as. And so what this is obviously is a screenshot of another post. And lovely celery says boys are allowed in girls' bathrooms because it's a state mandate. That's what she's talking about there. And then Kimberly Catherine saying that you have to have surgery first. Okay, so here's Karen Farley, which this is why they want her fired, because she wrote, well, that's not happening. And that's what she's saying, that somebody saying that that's not happening is stupid. I've seen pictures of boys dressed as girls in the girls' bathroom. What she's talking about is that picture that was sent to me and other parents, obviously, or maybe sent around the school, about a boy inside the girls' bathroom. So this is all that Karen wrote. It's just like everybody else. She saw it on social media. Not that she was looking at child pornography, not that she somehow paid for the picture, not, there's nothing. She, like many other parents, much like the trustees, like the principal, like the vice principal, like the other trustees that were on at the time, saw the very same picture of the boy dressed as a girl inside the bathroom. Karen Farley is just simply saying she saw the same picture that everybody else did. but not on my show. I didn't share it. Somebody else did on social media. So this is what Bonnie Conte does. She takes something that happened in some way, that there was a picture taken of a boy inside of a bathroom, yes. And then she turns it around, and now 3 years later is now saying Karen Farley needs to be fired because she had that picture at some point in her life, that she saw it somewhere. And it riles up a group of people. And now they're calling the district, I'm assuming, because they do everything that Bonnie Conte says, because they say, oh, we got our marching orders. We know what we're supposed to do now. We're supposed to get this mom who loves working with children in the school environment, who is well respected within the community. We need to get her fired because Bonnie Conte told us to, behind this narrative that is very narrow and not even close to the truth of what happened. This is what Bonnie Conte does. She did this just recently, not too long ago, saying that, putting up a post that an El Dorado High School student was chased by ICE, tackled, and arrested by ICE and taken to an adult jail, and that she had all the proof that this happened. And she said, I have the proof, I have the police report, all of which is a lie. An El Dorado student who's 18 did get arrested in Anaheim for by the gang unit for a different crime, not related to ICE, by the gang unit, not by ICE. ICE was nowhere to be found. ICE had nothing to do with anything in regard to this El Dorado student, former El Dorado student, being arrested. And it was all the way in Anaheim near Ball Road and Euclid. Nowhere near El Dorado. But Bonnie Conte doesn't care about facts. She only cares about creating a narrative that will cause now students that will use it as a reason for doing walks out of all the schools. So this was Bonnie Conte does. She creates a story that is not the real story in an effort to cause as much chaos in our community as possible. And she's now doing it again. This is her second stab at it. It's probably her 10th stab at it, but just in relationship to where I'm involved. This is the second story that she created out of nothing and is now causing grief in a mom, a woman who runs something called Yorba Moms, which would sound like it's a support location, Facebook location for supporting moms when they get overwhelmed or when they need to know, how to, where to go for dinner with their husband, or where to get their hair done, whatever. That Yorba Moms is being used by Bonnie Conte to tear apart this community and to cause chaos in PYLUSD and to go after people that she doesn't like simply because of who they're friends with. This narrative is crazy. It is beyond crazy that now they stick Karen Farley with this narrative that somehow she's a horrible person and should not be around children. Listen to what this one says. Brilliant Spinach says, warning, Karen Farley is now working as a substitute teacher in PYLUSD. Maybe the district office should know about this. Teachers are not comfortable with her on campus, but can't really do anything. You can, though. And then Bonnie Conte responds underneath. I don't think I have that screenshot, unfortunately. PYL Buzz admin, who can be a number of people that I would love to name, but I can't prove that that's who they are. But she writes, well, this is really disturbing. We would recommend, if this upsets you, contact the superintendent and the sheriff's department. Really? The sheriff's department? If photos of students in the bathroom are being shared, this is quite possibly illegal activity. Again, this idiot, if it is who I know, I think it is, and I can call them an idiot because I'm not naming a person and calling them an idiot, but this person is a moron, is trying to get people riled up about something that it does not exist. This is not what she's trying to claim it is. She wants people to believe by her writing this that there's something that's so serious that Karen Farley did that she needs to be reported to by the sheriff's department. Again, this is not what happened. Passionate Otter, wow, these people are crazy. Blade's best buddy, Andy Falco Jimenez, that's me, stated that he had those pictures. It was one picture. It wasn't pictures. Some time ago, Chernus was made aware and did nothing. Yes, I sent Chernus that picture because it was necessary to show him what's going on in El Dorado High School. And he did do something about it, you nitwit. I said I was not going to call people nitwits. Yes, he did do something about it. And I don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. You're listening to Bonnie Conte. She's not even employed by the PYLUSD, but she loves causing chaos in the PYLUSD. Why? Because she hates Leander Blade so much, because she hates Todd Frazier so much, and she hates me because I share her own words. That's all I do. I only share her words, and now she hates me because I share her own words. Bonnie Conte has created this in an effort to affect the people that surround Karen Farley, and she's willing to sacrifice Karen Farley's job to get her reported to the sheriff's department. For what? For nothing? For something that was discussed openly, that was shared on social media, not by me, but by other people, that hundreds of people. So how many people are you going to arrest in Placentia, Brea, Fullerton, Anaheim, Yorba Linda for seeing this picture on social media? How many people are you going to have arrested for that same thing? The very same thing that Karen Farley did is she looked on social media and saw the picture. That's all she said. She saw the picture. And it wasn't pornography. It was two clothed students standing in the threshold of the girls' bathroom. One of them was a boy dressed as a girl that goes inside the restroom and uses it. There was no picture or video of that. But he was in there on his way to use the restroom, which the girls who actually belonged in the girls' bathroom should not have to be subjected to. And it was causing and still causes girls not to want to use the bathrooms at school because they know boys go in there. But Bonnie Conte doesn't care about that. That's not what she cares about. Next one, Tracy. Here, this girl's a hoot. Tracy Kreitz. This is very troubling and should be investigated. Where's she been? This was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. If students are taking photos of other children, particularly in private spaces, I'm extremely concerned. Then an adult sharing openly. She didn't share. She said she saw it. That they've been given these pictures as though there's nothing wrong with this. It's sick. Just let kids tinkle and get back to class, for goodness sake. Yeah, Tracy, girls should be able to go to the bathroom, a girl's bathroom in school, without fear of a boy being in there. Yes. Yeah, that should be happening. But they can't, because boys are being allowed in there. Nobody's doing anything about it. They didn't do anything about it 3 years ago, and they're still not doing anything about it today. Yes, they should just be able to go to the bathroom and go back to class, but they can't. They sit there uncomfortable, wiggling in their seats, getting infections from holding onto the urine and the bowel movements because they're too afraid to go to the bathroom in the school. That's what's happening. But Tracy doesn't care about that. Underneath that, anonymous member 254. So you're more concerned about someone reporting this than the fact that boys are possibly dressing as girls to access the girls' bathroom? Seriously? Thank you. I just wish you weren't anonymous. You should speak up and proudly. But thank you for saying that. Yeah, Bonnie Conte and Tracy Kreitz are way more concerned that a student who wanted it to stop and was being told that it's not happening, that she's a liar. She was so tired of being called a liar, she took a picture for proof that a boy dressed as a girl is inside the girl's bathroom, that she took a picture and shared it so that it could be shared with the superintendent, the school board members, and anybody else that would listen to her and say, look, I'm not lying. This is happening. You're telling me it's not happening. I'm showing you that it is happening. But Tracy and Bonnie and all the others, they're more pissed that they got exposed, that it is happening, and they're not upset at all that men and boys are going into girls' bathrooms, that men and boys are competing against girls in girls' sports, that men and boys are going into locker rooms where girls should be able to take showers, but they can't do that either. None of those things can be nothing. There's nothing normal in schools anymore. Girls can't go to the bathroom. They can't go to the locker room and change or take a shower if they need to. They can't compete in sports without worrying about getting their head knocked off by a man. But they don't care about that. They only care that Karen Farley, like hundreds of other people, saw this picture that was posted in social media, and they want Karen Farley to be fired from her substitute teacher job, and want her reported to the sheriff's department because she simply said, hey, back then 3 years ago, that picture was shared and I saw it, like many other people. You freaking fools. It is just crazy. Man, they know how to run and twist these things to benefit them like professionals. Insanity. Karina, you're absolutely right. This is what Bonnie Conte does. This is her whole motive for having Yorba Linda Moms is to create chaos, because she has such hatred and nastiness in her life. You know, what's funny is I was going through my messages, and I don't go through my messenger on Facebook very often. Sometimes I'll spot one and I'll see it and I'll be able to check it out. But Bonnie Conte apparently like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, sent me a message saying, this is Bonnie Conte. I'll tell you what else she did, but she does in the message, this is Bonnie Conte. I should have taken a picture of maybe I'll do that next time. I'll take a picture of the message. This is Bonnie Conte. I'm demanding that you cease and desist using my name in your broadcast. I'm contacting an attorney and I'm going to be suing you. Well, that was 2.5 years ago. And I'm sure what her attorney told you and says, well, I'm not sure what you're going to sue him for because he's only sharing your words. I could sit in the room with this attorney going, I don't know what you're going to sue him for because did you not say that? Well, yes. Are those not the words that you typed out on the social media? Well, yes. Well, I'm not sure what you're going to say because he's not saying anything that isn't true. It's fact. And so I thought that was really funny that she did that. All right. So sorry. Let's see. This post goes on. So Tracy Kreitz continues. An adult received photos from inside girls' restroom and didn't report that to the police. No, you nitwit. It was, sorry. No, my wife's going to be really upset at me. No, it was reported to the police. Number one, Karen Farley just happened to see it on social media. Again, like hundreds of other people. You got to be kidding me. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows the show that I did. It gets brought up quite often. Let's see. She just casually mentioned it in a community discussion. No, people have been discussing this for years. That's what worries me the most. Whichever child took these photos needs to be held accountable. Well, they've long graduated. They're in college now and living in another state. So you just don't worry yourself a little about it. Now, Christina Lukehart, she goes, hey, Bonnie, where's that posted? She wants to see where that picture's posted because she thinks it's something that it's not. And I put the same one up twice. Oh, okay. So we'll get rid of that. So that's what's going on. So we have this Bonnie Conte. She's going to send me probably another message, or she's going to have me followed, like Quintero, who had me followed, for during the last election, had me followed, had people parked in front of my house watching me, and then followed me to church, and then had them serve me on a napkin something written out in crayon saying for me to cease and desist. All that stuff will happen. That's what Quintero did. So Bonnie will probably do something similar. Or she'll do what she did the other day. I really don't know what Bonnie Conte looks like, other than I know that she has blonde hair because, her Facebook picture used to show up every so often. So at least, I don't know if it's real, but she at least had blonde hair in the picture. So I would not have recognized her anywhere. So I'm in the drive-thru at In-N-Out Burger, and I'm sitting there and I'm ordering to these. There's two guys there that take your order. There's usually two guys in the line there, and they were standing side by side because there wasn't anybody else coming. And all of a sudden, as I'm finishing my order, I hear my name, Andy Falco, and I look up and there's a woman in the parking lot. There's other people walking around the parking lot. She's there in her SUV and her windows rolled down, and she goes, hey. And I go and I wave because I don't know who she is, this woman. And I wave with a smile on my face. She goes, it's Bonnie Conte. And she goes, you're an asshole. And she yells it out loud. She's in the parking lot. I'm in the drive-thru. She's a good 30 feet away from me. She yells at the top of her lungs like a crazy person. The two guys like look at me and then look over at her and go, what? And I go, I guess she thinks I'm an asshole. And I'm sitting there just thinking, what kind of person does that? I really don't understand. I believe it was her also who wrote a bad review on my business. Now, she doesn't really know what business I'm in, but she wrote a review as if she did, and she's completely wrong. And so she wrote this bad review. Somebody told me that it might have been her husband that did it. It was somebody knew what she had said she was going to do, and they said, when I put up the screenshot on a show way back then when that happened, they said it was Bonnie Conte. But this is madness. This is really somebody who has some very serious problems, I believe. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose her, but this is the kind of stuff that happens. And this series of posts on Placentia Buzz is a sign of craziness, that she really just wants this fantastic person who is a great teacher. She has decades of experience of teaching, and it has children, that she just puts together this post that creates a narrative that people just begin to follow. These people, the other reason I want to share what those other people wrote is they apparently know nothing about where this stems from, where I discussed in its entirety what that picture was. I also, on that same post, which gets mentioned quite often, is about kids not in dress code at El Dorado High School. And what I said at the time, and I'll repeat it here because it's no, because they like to create a whole nother narrative about it, is that I said, I can just, in the time that it takes to stop the car and say goodbye to your child as you're dropping them off, and by the time you now drive down that little pathway that leads you back onto Valencia, that you can see 10 to 15 violations of the dress code. And that's all I said. Now, of course, this turns out Andy's ogling the girls at El Dorado High School. And I said, that's not what I said. And then I put up these pictures, and then they said, so here's one of the pictures that I used. And I said, this is, okay, which one of these falls within the dress code? And I did a little test on the very same show. And A or B. Now, A is, I'm just so in case you don't know, A is not within the dress code. B is it within the dress code. Why? Because A is a middle finger. And I had other pictures, and these are not students at El Dorado High School. They are models on, I believe I got them mostly off of Amazon. I just typed in, so whatever shirts I saw during my time of dropping off the kids at El Dorado High School, I found them online and used them as examples. But these aren't pictures of the students that were wearing that clothing. It was pictures of the models on Amazon, and probably most of those were AI generated, not even real people, of the clothing that's inappropriate. But of course, I'm sure Bonnie Conte was behind it back then and shared, this with other people, is that it turned, what the narrative became was that Andy is taking inappropriate pictures of girls that are not within the dress code at El Dorado High School. This creepy old man is taking pictures inappropriately of girls. That's what the narrative turned out. Those were not pictures of students. They're of AI generated models, most likely on Amazon, of the clothing that I saw that I found on Amazon. So this is what's happening. These are the things that just drive me crazy in regard to these narratives that people put up. They create a story that is generated out of something much different, and just now are directing it towards Karen Farley. And of course, I'm pulled into there. And she simply is saying what everybody saw at the time, 3 years ago. This is not anything new. I think there's many people thinking that Karen Farley received some new picture of kids in the bathroom actually urinating. That's what it seems to be from how they're reacting to this. But that's what Bonnie Conte wants. You see, she never corrects it. She never says, well, this was something that Andy said 3 years ago, that he received a picture from a parent of two fully clothed children of students. One of them was a boy dressed as a girl, and the other one was a girl. Both of them were fully dressed, and he sent it to the school district, the principal and the vice principal, and to the police department. She doesn't include any of that information. No, her goal is to create a narrative that will show Karen Farley in the worst light possible, to the point where she's trying to say that Karen Farley is a pedophile who has pictures of nude children in the girls' restroom going to the bathroom. That's that's where people go. But that's not what happened. But that's what she wanted to create. And now it's going to cause Karen Farley, I'm sure, to have to go through whatever she needs to go through to clear her name with the school district, because I believe a number of people will follow her direction and call the school district. And I just think that this is crazy. I mean, I'm just can't believe that nobody goes to Bonnie Conte and says, would you just stop your stupidity? Would you just stop being crazy? Maybe you should go get some help for your mental health condition, whatever that is that you have, because it is sick to try to take down a parent like Karen Farley and a teacher at PYUSD. You know, they always scream and yell that, yeah, you got to love teachers. But that's not what's happening here, obviously. It's just Bonnie Conte has hate in her heart. It's the same woman, again, who at K Vida, where some parents were that she doesn't like. And she was just yelling at them in the restaurant in front of everybody, and just going a little bit crazy inside the restaurant. There's something seriously wrong. And all of you that follow her need to understand what she's doing. She's not telling you the truth about anything. Who knows? She may not even be a real estate agent. I've heard she's a real estate agent, but who knows? Maybe, I don't know if she really does that. I don't know how anybody could hire her as a real estate agent, knowing what her problems are. But that's all up to you guys. I'm just sharing you the truth, sharing her words, and giving you the context of where all this kind of falls from. Jason Knight says, let's hear what he has to say. Okay, I'm getting involved in the girls versus men's 5K soon. I want to help out, support the cause. Okay. All right. So there's the report for now. There'll be more. This just kind of came out and I couldn't wait. I wanted to share this information with you guys. And there's more coming. I have so much more that I didn't have time to put out there. And I did kind of want to keep this short, but I've gone 37 minutes. All right, my friends. God bless you guys. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.